Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Lionel, Jonathan Lionel. So since 1953, we've had a series made for all of us sexist, misogynist dinosaurs and all of us relics of the Cold War. Some people are big into Star Wars or big into DC and Marvel comics, but with me, it's always been the 007 series. So before we dive into all the different facets of 007 media, all the video games, all the books, all the movies, all the comics, in my opinion, we need to go back to the root of this franchise, and that root is Mr. Ian Fleming. So, I'm going to provide a very short biography that is by no means thorough, but maybe we can all learn something. I know I did. So, let us begin, shall we? So, Ian Fleming, born May 28th, 1908, on 27 Green Street, Mayfair, London. Fleming's mother was Evelyn Fleming. Fleming's father was Valentine Fleming. Fleming had a grandfather named Robert Fleming, who co-founded the Scottish-American Investment Company. His father Valentine died in World War I. Fleming also had a brother named Peter, who was a writer and served in the Second World War and was involved in several behind enemy lines operations. Fleming also had two other younger brothers, Michael and Richard, and one half-sister, Amaryllis. Fleming attended Eton College in 1921. He was not a high academic achiever, but he excelled at athletics, and he also edited a school magazine, The Wyvern. Fleming's lifestyle at Eton brought him into conflict with his housemaster, E.V. Slater. Slater persuaded Fleming's mother to remove him from Eton a term early for a cram course to gain entry to the Royal Military College at Sandhurst. Fleming caught gonorrhea and left in 1927 without gaining a commission. So, in 1927, his mother sent him to the Tannerhor in Austria, a private school run by former British spy Ernan Forbes Dennis and his wife, Phyllis Bodemay. Fleming also briefly studied at Munich and the University of Geneva. In 1931, Fleming got engaged, but his mother disapproved and made him break the engagement. So then Fleming went and applied to the Foreign Office, but he failed the exams. Fleming's mother intervened again, lobbying the head of Reuters news agency, which led to Fleming getting a sub-editor and journalist job for the company. In 1933, Fleming spent time in Moscow, covering Stalinist show trials of 6 engineers from Metro Vickers. He also applied for an interview with Joseph Stalin, but Stalin couldn't make it because he was simply just too busy, but did send him a signed note apologizing. In October of 1933, Fleming finally bowed to family pressure and went into banking, and also became a stockbroker, both unsuccessfully. So let's skip ahead to 1939, where Fleming's life is going to make a turn for the better. He's recruited by Rear Admiral John Godfrey, Director of Naval Intelligence for the Royal Navy. Fleming receives the code name 17F and worked out of room 39 at the Admiralty. He's also promoted to Lieutenant Commander. Fleming proved invaluable as Godfrey's personal assistant. Godfrey had a reputation for being difficult to work with and used Fleming as a liaison between him and the SIS, or MI6, Political Warfare Executive, SOE, the Joint Intelligence Committee, and the Prime Minister's staff. Fleming and company came up with several ideas for operations to throw the Germans wrong information. Fleming also worked with Colonel Wild Bill Donovan, who was Franklin Roosevelt's special representative on intelligence cooperation between London and Washington. In May 1941, Fleming went with Godfrey to the U.S., where he helped him in writing a blueprint for the Office of the Coordinator of Information, which turned into the OSS, or Office of Strategic Services, which later turned into the CIA, or Central Intelligence Agency. Fleming also had to do with Operation GoldenEye, which was a plan to install spies in Spain if the Germans took that nation over. So, We come to 1942, which was a big year for Fleming. He founded a commando unit, which is known as the Number 30 Commando or 30 Assault Unit, which was composed of specialist intelligence troops. The 30AU's job was to be near the front or sometimes in front of it to seize documents from enemy headquarters. Fleming didn't fight in the field with the unit, but he selected the targets and directed the operations. Originally, this unit was 30 strong, but grew 5 times this size. And apparently, Fleming wasn't too popular with the members of the 30 AUs, which disliked Fleming referring to them as his Red Indians. Also in 1942, Fleming attended an Anglo-American intelligence summit in Jamaica, and despite the heavy rain during his visit, he decided to live on the island after the war. Fleming's friend Ivar Bryce helped him find a plot of land, and in 1945, Fleming had a house built, which he named Goldeneye. This is where Fleming wrote his novels. The naming of this house goes back to the wartime Operation Goldeneye, and a book from 1941 called Reflections in a Goldeneye, which described the use of British naval bases in the Caribbean by the American Navy. So, there is obviously much more about Fleming during World War II, but that would take hours to cover thoroughly, and maybe that's another video for another time. Anyway, after the war, Fleming became the foreign manager in the Kemsley newspaper group. This role let him have 3 months holiday during winter, which he took in Jamaica. He worked full-time for the paper until 1959. Fleming had had an affair during the war and after the war with a woman named Ann Charteris. The couple became pregnant, which led to her husband at the time divorcing her. Fleming and Ann got married on 24th of March 1952 in Jamaica, a few months before their son's birthday, whose name was Casper. So, Fleming had said during the war that he had wanted to write the spy story to end all spy stories, which he did after writing Casino Royale within 2 months. Taking much information and influence from his own experiences during World War II, he gave Bond several of his own likes and loves, such as his love of Moreland custom-made cigarettes, his use of a Beretta .25 caliber pistol, his taste in alcohol, and his love of scrambled eggs. Fleming stole the name James Bond from an ornithologist who was author of Birds of the West Indies, which Fleming had in his possession, being an active bird watcher in Jamaica. So Fleming stole this name because he wanted, in his own words, a very boring name. He wanted Bond to be a very dull, uninteresting man to whom things happened. To quote Fleming, "I wanted him to be a blunt instrument," unquote. So Fleming went on to write several novels and short stories based on the adventures of James Bond. He wrote one nonfiction book, Thrilling Cities, which the U.S. edition includes the story 007 in New York. He wrote another non-Bond fiction book, The Diamond Smugglers, and also a children's book, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Fleming, a lifelong smoker and a heavy drinker, suffered from bad health, and unfortunately, he died of a heart attack in 1964, just before the movie that would propel his character to take over the pop cultural world for a time. This movie, of course, was Goldfinger. So, like I've stated, this is by no means a full biography. This is just a video in which I talk about my favorite author and one of my heroes. I feel that everything else I've got planned for this channel wouldn't be right at all if we didn't have a little chat about Fleming. I plan on reviewing and talking about all forms of James Bond media. I will see you next time, and we'll go over a book I've only known about for a few months, but apparently the influence of this book had a lot to do with Casino Royale. I'm not going to let it out what this book is. It's going to be a surprise. So please like and subscribe, and feel free to comment whatever you would like. I've been Jonathan Lonham. See you next time.